Hey my dear friends, Sam Haymart with Test Driven TV. The time has finally come to let our 2015 Smart ForTwo long-term test car go back into the universe. So we're going to do a wrap up today and talk about what it's really been like to live with. All right, my friends, so if you watch my videos, you know that about 3 years ago, almost to the day, I purchased this car on Carvana, sight unseen, having never test driven it, with about 22,500 miles on it. I did a video on that completely documenting the process, which is linked down below. Video's been well received out there. A lot of people wanted to know what it was like to buy a car from Carvana. It was a pretty interesting process and one that went very well, although quite a few people out there kind of lack the imagination to understand why I did it mostly shirtless. But that said, it was a nice experience, and here is the car. The first thing I did with this car when I got it was I put a vinyl wrap on it to make it bright and visible like a traffic pylon. I put a monkey on the door. It was cute as hell. And the main reason was because I didn't want to get smashed into. This is a tiny little car and I felt quite exposed when I first bought it. And I found that driving it at night, people just didn't see me. So this wrap really made the car very visible. In fact, it became notorious around downtown Phoenix. People would see the car. I would get text messages and people would message me on Messenger. In fact, I even heard once that there was a Facebook page out there on monkey sightings. Essentially, this became a car that I couldn't park at places that I really shouldn't be at because people would find out. The good news is that 3 years after the fact, the wrap came off in a weekend without further incident. The factory paint almost perfectly preserved, just the way it was when I bought it. And I don't regret doing a wrap. I would do it again on another car. Now, a lot of people have asked me what it's like to live with this thing and drive it and own it. And I got to tell you, for living in an urban city where I do, this has been a perfect car to have as a city car. It's small, obviously. 2 of these can fit in a standard parking space. You can park this where parking spaces don't even exist. You can side it up next to a dumpster in an alley and nobody even knows it's there because really it's the same exact size as a trash dumpster. You can drive it on a standard city sidewalk. I've done it. I'm sorry, but it had to be done one day, and it fits. This is a car that, to me, the biggest benefit that I've gotten out of it is the fact that it is so small, it is so maneuverable, and getting through traffic in an urban environment, it's the only thing better would be a motorcycle. After sitting here for 3 years driving around town, what I found is that this interior for a car that was starting out around $8,000 is pretty good. Cloth on the dash, cloth on the seats, the door panels, and it's actually worn pretty well over the 3 years that I've owned it. It's a very sturdy cloth and it cleans up because it's almost more of a plastic polyester type of material. A little bit of soap and water gets it clean. And it's a pretty basic interior, and as you can see, I'm pretty comfortable here for it being such a small car. One little quirk is that the starter is down on the center console, kind of like an old Saab. Cup holders down on the floor, and then there is a cigarette lighter 12-volt port here and a couple little items down there. You can buy accessories like storage items that you can slide into that down there in the bottom. And if you're ever looking for the 12-volt battery on your smart car, it's under the carpet right over there on the passenger side. Very cool for a car like this. Came standard with a panoramic roof. Now it doesn't open, but you can slide the cover shut, if you don't want the light. Kind of a nice little surprise in a car like this, but otherwise it's very plain. I got an AM/FM radio. It does have connectivity with an auxiliary and USB port, but it's been a comfortable place, believe it or not. Spartan, but comfortable. In the 3 years I've owned this car, I put about 55,000 miles on it, so there's just under 78,000 miles on the clock right now. And when it comes to fuel economy, this is rated in the mid-30s, so it was never something that was meant to be a Prius or get 70 miles to the gallon like you'd think it was. You'd look at this car and you just think, oh, that should get 50 or 70 miles to the gallon. Reality is they don't. My worst mileage I ever got was 28 city, and 28 to 30 is what you get with this thing with the air conditioner on a really hot day. It sucks, the gas, when you put the air conditioner on this little 3-cylinder engine. The best though, 40 to 42 without the air conditioner on. So that I was happy with. And that is well more than what the window sticker promised when it comes to EPA fuel economy. Now, one thing I will say, if you're looking at buying one of these things used, is this has been a lot more reliable and sturdy a car than I ever expected it to be. There's an old saying out there, there's nothing more expensive than a cheap Mercedes-Benz. And this is the cheapest Mercedes-Benz that was ever designed to be sold, and it's made in France. I mean, what could go wrong, right? So when I bought this as a used car, I most certainly bought the extended warranty, and it was a pretty expensive extended warranty. And at the time, I just kind of thought, oh God, it's a ripoff, you know. But the reality is, this car has actually been pretty sturdy. The first major thing that went wrong with this car was about 60,000 miles. The motor mounts just kind of disintegrated, right? And as it turns out, that's a very common problem with these cars. If you Google that, almost all of them, 60,000 miles is kind of like the mark at which you need new motor mounts. And it was actually cheap enough. I decided not to opt for taking it into the dealership and having it done under warranty. I just bought the parts, did it myself in about 3 hours. It was actually kind of a fun little job. I just did the math on having this car down for a day or two and the deductible for the warranty. It was actually cheaper for me to just replace the parts because I actually wanted a project. The other major thing was I hit a pothole one day and it shook this car so hard. It was a bad pothole that it actually broke the internal mechanism in one of my headlights, and so I had to replace the headlight because the bulb just kind of fell out of the casing. It was done. It was toast. And again, I just did that myself because I felt it was cheaper to buy the new part and replace it myself than take it into the dealership and be down for a day or two. In the 3 years that I had it, I took it to the Mercedes-Benz dealership one time to have a stack of warranty work done on it, $3,800 worth of work, which more than twice paid for the extended warranty that I bought on the car. And that included a new oxygen sensor to turn off a check engine light, a new TPMS sensor to turn off the tire pressure light, and also I had a noise in the dash whenever I would adjust the air conditioner, and a new actuator needed to be put deep inside the dash. The main piece of work I had at the dealership for warranty was I had a fuel odor when I was getting out of the car, something that sort of started happening. It just, every time I'd open the door, I smelled gas. And so that turned out to be the fuel pump on top of the gas tank, which is underneath the car. There's a little connector on that for the evaporative fuel system that cracks on these cars. Very common issue. And that really was the big piece of warranty work. So if you ever have a smart car and you get out of it and going, I smell gas, chances are you need a new fuel pump. And that's definitely a big job on this car. Outside of that, I pretty much did all of the work myself on this car, all of the routine maintenance and all of the minor repairs. I did 5 oil changes. I put 2 sets of spark plugs on this, 2 sets of brakes, put a new set of tires on this car, and a couple other little things, lots of bulbs. This thing just really ate the bulbs. The last thing I most recently did was I replaced the 2 accessory drive belts on this car. And the funny thing is when I had it in for warranty work, the dealership quoted me $175 to replace these 2 drive belts. And I was just like, are you kidding me? I am not letting you f me like that. Those are $10 parts. I can do that in 10 minutes. Wrong. That was completely wrong. It took me almost all day on a weekend day, and it was one of the most difficult jobs I've ever done on a car. They're just impossible. And a month later, my hands are still sore. So if you have a shop that's willing to do it at any price, I recommend you take the deal. All said, I gotta say that I'm really actually gonna miss this little thing. I've enjoyed having it in my life for the last 3 years. I would totally buy this car again. In fact, if I were buying another one, I'd probably try the electric one just for fun, even though they don't have the longest range, but I don't regret this at all. So if you're looking at a cheap used car that might be quirky and fun, I would totally recommend it. Even though it's not a car for everybody, I think everybody should try it at least once. So there you go. The other videos that we've done on the car, the test drive and the actual buy video that I did, link down below in the information section. But if you like what I do here, you can see our latest video here on Test Driven TV right there, or better yet, subscribe to the YouTube channel right down there. Either way, stay tuned.